So, I am Trace Pittman, speaking with my grandmother, Carolyn Anderson, who has lived in Tucson for over 20 years. And so we are just going to go through some questions.
Perfect.
So the name of the location, is it Tucson or any more specific place in Tucson?
Tucson is probably 500,000 people, so it's not that big. It's just I lived in the central area of Tucson. Central area of Tucson.
Okay. And it says to figure out the latitude and longitude, but I'm guessing you don't know that off the top of your head.
I don't. I lived near River Road and Campbell Avenue.
All right. So I can figure out the coordinates later.
You can, because they're two big streets. River Road, Campbell.
Okay. So basically the idea of this is to figure out how Tucson has changed over the 20-year period since you lived there. So the first question, when you first moved to Tucson over 20 years ago, how did it look?
Well, Trace, do you think you should say over 40 years ago?
When you moved to Tucson, sure.
Yeah.
So 40 years ago.
I moved to Tucson in 1952, so I saw huge changes.
Right. So how did it look before?
Well, of course, it was much smaller, much, much smaller. And I can remember going downtown. There were no malls when I moved there, just the downtown area. And I can remember being downtown and seeing Navajo, whose reservation was a long way north of Tucson in the northern part of Arizona, and seeing them inside one of the department stores. And they had, this is something that I will always remember, and they had on what their native dress. And I thought, gosh, this is amazing.
What department store was it?
It was Levy's.
What is Levy's? What were they shopping for?
It was a department store. They were in the men's department. I don't know why. Maybe they had something they had to go to or something. I don't know.
Okay. So there were no malls, and it was a lot smaller. And then what else about Tucson early on that's maybe different from how it is now?
Well, I can remember when I first moved there in 1952-53, you could go into what is now there's a place where the Cleveland Indians used to play baseball, and it was High Corbett Field, and I'll tell you how that has changed so much. In those days, the Cleveland Indians came there in the winter for spring training, so people in Tucson many people would go to the games. Now today, all the professional baseball leagues in the western part of the United States, most of them go to Phoenix. So Phoenix is a huge, huge baseball area, and they have many, many teams there for spring training. So the University of Arizona, about 3 years ago, purchased High Corbett Field and refurbished it, and that's where the University of Arizona now plays baseball, whereas they used to play on campus.
Oh, so they got a big upgrade.
Yeah, well, it was they kept the charm, of an old baseball field, and it's just college baseball, so none of the college baseball facilities are that huge. But when I was a little girl, now Broadway right today is at least a 6-lane street going from west to east and east to west, and it divides really Tucson, the northern part of Tucson, from the southern part of Tucson. And I can remember there was an old hotel close to High Corbett Field, and I can remember riding horses from the stable at the hotel across Broadway to High Corbett Field.
Cool.
I know. That was
so this is Earth Systems class. So what about the environment when you first moved to Tucson?
Well, you'll be happy to hear this. When I first moved to Tucson, we used to have terrible dust storms. And I don't know if it was construction. I don't know if it was maybe new construction, because I don't remember. Tucson has never been like a money city, you know, so we didn't have all the people flocking and building houses and all that. But we had huge, huge dust storms, and I remember as time went on and people planted grass and trees and streets were paved, and that could have been it, that there were maybe a lot more streets that weren't paved. So that could have been, you know, what caused all the dust. But it was really, it was really problematic, and you could go to your windowsill and put your hands across it and come up with, you know, red dust.
Wow.
But
how long did that last?
That changed over the years. And it probably changed as people built houses and landscaped. When was that?
How long did it last?
Oh.
This years or just a few months?
No, I'd say like for 3 years. And now last year when I drove up I-10, which is the main freeway between Tucson and Phoenix Phoenix has horrible dust storms. Now they call them haboobs, where the day becomes night. And,
wow.
And it could be because west of Phoenix there is a lot of construction, but they have these haboobs. And last summer when we were driving up, and even the summer before, that my friend and I there were dust storms, and they're bad dust storms, you know, where it hits your car and you can just hear it.
Oh, that's crazy.
Mhm.
What about like the temperature when you first moved to Tucson?
Well, Tucson, because Tucson is a lot like Denver. It's a desert, even though Denver, we don't realize it, but it's a desert climate, and there's very little irrigation. We have very little irrigation in Tucson. So this is interesting. The daytime temperature in Tucson, even then when I first moved, and over the years, there's a 30-degree difference between day and night, just as there is in Denver, because it's so dry. When the sun goes down, it cools off. Now, Phoenix has irrigation, and much more irrigation, and they have the Salt River, and they, when the sun goes down in Phoenix in the summer, it does not get cool like it does in
Yeah.
So is that something that you could...
That's very interesting. So at first there was a large temperature difference between day and night. Is that no longer the case?
No, it still is. It's not quite as pronounced, but it still is. You know, you go in the day and it's nice and warm, and when the sun goes down, like even in April or in May, it gets cool.
Right. So like what were the average daily highs in the summer in Tucson in the 50s?
Oh gosh. I would say it probably in the 90s. The average was probably, 90 to 94. And we did have, and I don't think they have them as well. When I moved after 40 some years, some summers we didn't have them, and we would be the people who lived in Tucson were so sad. But when I first moved there, and for years we called it the monsoon season, and in August you would have big, huge gully washers. and it was so nice because it cooled the temperature down.
Cool. So what about the winter? What were the temperatures like during the winter in the 50s?
Occasionally we had snow, and it was, you can't say that it was warm. My relatives would come out from Minnesota, and I know several times coming through on the way to Tucson that you go through where Geronimo's stronghold was by, I think it's by Wilcox in the, I don't know if it's the Terracawa Mountains. I can't remember. But when you went through there and you were at a higher elevation, you got snow. But
okay.
I'm willing to bet that doesn't happen now.
Okay. So we talked about the temperature, precipitation. We talked about the monsoons.
Yes, we did have
snow.
Occasionally snow.
And occasionally snow. What about like trees or foliage, for instance? What was that like in the 50s?
Tucson didn't have that many trees.
Did not have many trees.
Yeah, and a lot of people, like my parents were from Minnesota, so they planted Palo Verde trees, which were indigenous to that area. So they didn't have the big trees and they took so much water. And I did notice the last time I was in Tucson last year, because water is now getting more and more expensive, more and more people do not have grass, and it isn't like Phoenix, because Phoenix gets the salt water from the Salt River, but that is also bad because then it has humidity and it keeps in the heat.
Right. So maybe now let's talk about Tucson today in light of temperature, precipitation, and trees.
And do you want to do like lights?
What?
I know some. Did you want to talk about light, like the use of lights like at night?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that would be interesting.
Well, that is interesting because Tucson had an observatory. I think it was from the University of Arizona. I'm not sure under what auspice it was, but there was an observatory up in the mountains south of Tucson in the Santa Rita Mountains, and it was called Kitt Peak. So because a lot of light is not good for an observatory when they're trying to look at the planets, etc., we had lights in Tucson that were friendly, that had covers over them so that we wouldn't have so much reflect light going up.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting.
So what happened? Is Kitt Peak still operational?
I believe it is.
So the city hasn't grown to the point where it's impossible to look at the stars?
I don't think it has. I think they're careful.
So how much do you think Tucson has grown since you moved there?
Since I moved there?
Yeah, in 52.
Probably plus 400,000.
Grown by about 400, so like doubled?
Oh, yes.
Okay. But hasn't been growing as fast as Phoenix?
No.
Okay.
It's interesting, huh?
Yeah. So the dust storms today are only in Phoenix. They're not in Tucson.
No, I haven't witnessed a dust storm in Tucson.
Okay. So in terms of the temperature, do you think that Tucson still has such a large temperature drop at night?
Yes.
Yes. Do you think the range of temperatures has shifted, even though the gap between day and night is still so large?
Well, Tucson's still a desert. I mean, I don't know. That's a good question. We would have to look it up.
So what about, is it hotter today in Tucson than it was in 52 or 53?
Yes.
like 10 degrees hot or about?
I think, yes. I think they have more days that are 110.
They have days that are 110.
That's what my friends say.
So that's a huge increase from the 50s.
Well, yeah, but we, of course, in the 50s, we did have days that were 100. And now there's days that's 110. It's not like every day, you know what I'm saying? So
right.
Before, I'd say that it has gone up because I remember Tata saying, you know, when it's 110, it's really hot, but not like Phoenix, of course, 121.
Right. And then it still gets a lot cooler at night, but maybe it's 10 degrees cooler at night as well.
Right, I'm sure.
Okay.
Not 10 degrees cooler, 10
or
degrees
hotter.
warmer at night. Yeah.
Right. Do you think the monsoon season is the same today as it was when you first moved?
I don't think that it is. It doesn't come August. This year they had rain I think they had rain in October, and they had some rain this winter, which is unusual.
So it's happening later in the year, basically?
It seems like it is.
Okay.
Instead of being in August. But then Phoenix had rain. You know, you just don't know. It's weird.
And so I'm guessing that it never snows in Tucson, or it hasn't snowed for many years. Is that right?
That's correct.
So no more snow. What do you think the higher elevations maybe have snow still?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure there was some snow because I remember Tata saying it was really cold, and they probably someplace in Tucson, like towards the foothills, could have gotten snow.
But not the main city like it used to.
No, because there wasn't that. People didn't live all over like they do now.
Okay. Maybe we could talk about water. Any main, like, how have the rivers changed since you first moved to Tucson?
Well, in the history of Tucson, long ago, I'm trying to think of how long ago. Maybe in the 30s, the 20s and the 30s, there was a river on the west side of Tucson, and it did run. When I lived in Tucson, none of our rivers ran. Zero. The only time the rivers ran were, and still it's that way. It's like those pictures in the movies when you have an arroyo and the water's just churning, because the water, of course, when it rains, if it rains a lot, the water all goes into the rivers, and then the rivers are just like boiling.
Yeah.
And it's scary, and you could get washed away. So, that still happens when but we have to get the summer rain in order for that to happen. Or the rain, sometimes in October we used to get rains like that.
So it sounds like, yeah?
No, I mean, I don't know because I wasn't there. I know this was a good year for Tucson, better than Denver. I know there was rain this winter in Tucson.
So it sounds like a general monsoon pattern or rain filling up the rivers. That pattern is still the same, but maybe it just happens at different times of year.
At different times. And some years it doesn't happen at all. I mean, because some years I remember we waited for the monsoons because it's so hot in Tucson that people, they go away. They go to Southern California.
Right.
If you can afford to go to Southern California.
So anything else in terms of what Tucson used to look like and how it's changed over 40 years?
You know how I think it has changed? That I really noticed? More people don't have grass anymore. They don't have.
Okay.
No, they don't have grass, and they're trying to be conscientious people, and also it's economic because it's so expensive.
So has water gotten more expensive?
Yeah, water in Tucson, there's no water. They get the city of Tucson, which Judy and I stop at Mary Alice Aguirre's ranch. The ranchers north of Tucson, for all these years, since 1950 to now, the ranchers were always complaining because the city of Tucson would buy land, and then the city of Tucson would put down wells for water for the city, and the ranchers wanted water for them for their cotton, because they grew Pima cotton, and for their irrigation.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I know my friend that was a rancher they don't ranch anymore, and now there's a subdivision close to where we used to ride out into the scrub brush, and the cattle would be grazing, if you can call it that.
So the development has displaced a lot of the ranching operations.
Yeah, yeah.
And
okay. Also the water, because water is so expensive that it's prohibitive. If you're raising cotton, how much money can you get for your cotton? When your water's so expensive.
Right. So now I'm supposed to ask you, what are some of the things you used to do in Tucson? Maybe recreational activities?
We always swam a lot. We swam a lot. We played tennis, but it was pretty hot, but we still played tennis. We just did what kids do everywhere. Went to baseball games.
Okay.
It's very hot in the summer.
That's why you swam, right?
Yes.
Okay.
They swim there. It's completely different than here, where kind of you swim, but it's a little cool. In Tucson, it's not. So we would go, when like in junior high and high school, and we would just swim all day.
Oh, that sounds so fun.
At the Elks Club.
At the Elks Club, cool. So, maybe this question isn't that meaningful because, you were a little kid and now you're a senior citizen, so you're maybe doing different activities. But I'm also supposed to ask, what do you do in Tucson now, and maybe how has the change that Tucson has undergone changed what you do in Tucson, if at all?
Well, lately I've been going to Tucson in April, and April's not the warmest month. And for the last 2 years that we've gone in April, we haven't, when we used to go in May, we would swim like all afternoon, but now it's too cool. April's just not a good month for us, the month that I go. But we have fun. We go to the U of A, and one of the ways Tucson has changed, which is really nice, is that they have a trolley that goes all the way from the University of Arizona all the way to the other side of downtown and the other side of the freeway. So it's really fun to take the trolley. And you can get off at any time and walk around. And Tucson's a really good walking city because it's nice. There's no ice and snow.
Yeah. So even though it's gotten a lot warmer, April's still too cold to swim.
Right. I'll let you know after this year. Maybe it'll be looking for swimming.
Okay. Anything else besides swimming? Is it too hot to go to baseball games? Too hot to play tennis? Too hot to
hike? Right now it's of course in the winter it's perfect. In the summer you have to get up early if you want to play tennis.
Was that always the case?
Well, when the monsoon came, in Tucson, if you wake up in the morning and it's cloudy in the summer, it's like a special day. It's very exciting. And so when those days come, I can still remember the day my friend taught me how to drive, even though I did take driver's ed, but she let me practice driving her car, and it was cool. It was just a cool morning, and it would be cloudy till noon, and then of course the old sun would come out.
Yeah.
So that's one reason that the people from Tucson like the monsoon. And then the last time I was there in April, we did have those cloudy days, and and we walked, because Tucson's an easy walking city because there aren't any there's no hills. I mean, there are when you get to the foothills, but in the city it's pretty flat, so you can walk a long way.
Cool.
Easily.
Yeah.
So we walked, and we had a great time. And it's fun to see the architecture in Tucson, because where we were, they had some of the architecture was left over from, before the 1950s. The adobe, we would look at these adobe houses that were made out of real adobe bricks, and say that, we'd wish we could have one of those.
Huh. Yeah. Any other activities that you like to do in Tucson currently?
I like to eat.
Of course.
There's millions of Mexican restaurants. Delicious.
Okay, so now I'm just going to go through and summarize what we've talked about, and you can tell me if I got anything wrong, or if there's anything you want to add. So,
okay.
First, we talked about what Tucson used to be like back in the 50s. It was small, no malls. We talked about Corbett Field.
It's High Corbett Field.
High Corbett Field.
Because the guy's name was High H.I. Corbett.
Oh.
Corbett.
Who was this guy?
It was named after. The Corbetts were people who lived in Tucson forever.
Oh, okay. We talked about the monsoon season, the temperature changes, precipitation, the observatory, and rivers. So then we talked about what Tucson's like today. It's grown a lot. The dust storms have gone away. The temperature has gone up. The monsoon season has sort of started to happen later in the year. Snow has become less prevalent. There's citizens are trying to save water by not having grass. Water's gotten more expensive. Development has pushed the ranchers out. And there's a nice trolley that was built that's from the U of A all over Tucson.
No, well, just to the downtown area, which prior to this, like when I was in school, the U of A was really relatively small, and we didn't have many activities west of campus. And now it's really a huge place where kids go, probably because one of the reasons, because those kids that don't have cars, which are quite a few of them, they just can get on the trolley, and then they go down to South 4th, where there's a lot of bars.
Okay. So the U of A has grown a lot too. That's another change that's happened.
Yes, the U of A is huge. Right.
Yeah. So I'll write that.
And the U of A uses irrigation. So to water their stuff, they have the way they do it, and this is how they do it in Old Phoenix. They still do it today. They have like little hills, like you have a grass yard, and then there's little hills on the edge of your grass yard, and so they fill up the grass. They fill up the yard, but the water doesn't flow in the street or flow in the sidewalk because it's just contained, and that's the old-fashioned way of watering. They open the gates, like at the U of A, they open the water, and then it goes out, and they just fill up the area, and then they turn it off. And then when you water like that, you don't have to water that many days.
Huh. And that still happens today?
Yeah, well, I think so.
Okay, interesting. So then finally we talked about what you used to do in Tucson, swimming, playing tennis, going to baseball games, and then we talked about what you do in Tucson now.
Really the same old thing. We don't play tennis.
Same old things.
But next year we're going to go to baseball because Quinny will be playing for the U of A, hopefully.
Oh, that'll be very exciting.
Yeah, it will be.
Do you think you have any pictures of Tucson from when you first lived there?
I used to, but I don't think I have now. I don't know where they would be.
Okay. Well, I'm supposed to ask you for one, and perhaps you can find one, and I would appreciate it, and the classmates would appreciate it, but no worries if you...
When do you have to have it, Trace?
Like the next few... This assignment is due on Monday, I think, so like Saturday or Sunday would be fine. But don't spend a ton of time looking for it.
I have a picture that I just looked at. Oh, it's in your hall.
Oh, perfect.
I can take a picture of it. It's me walking in the front yard, which you'll see how much of a desert it is. Wait, I knew I saw that picture. Wait just a moment, looking for it. Oh, yeah. You get the whole idea.
Oh, that's so cool.
Do you think if I take a picture of it downstairs, it'll go?
Yeah. Yeah, your
Okay.
iPhone has a pretty good camera. I think it'll be able to do a good job.
How funny. And then they'll see how the size of the bush is. That's right when I moved to Tucson. So
yeah.
That's really what you got, basically, because that was when our house was new. But they never got much bigger than that because it's hard to grow stuff. My mother really was a pretty good grower.
Cool. Well, thank you for thinking of that.
Well, I just thought the other day.
Yeah. So I have your email address. I think everybody is going to post their interviews, and I'll send you a link to the website in case you are interested. And I'm also supposed to ask you for your social media account, if you would like me to help you post this interview on your social media account.
Not especially, because
Not
we
especially.
don't use social media.
Okay. Well, those are all the
I'm
questions.
really old. I'm probably the oldest person that's in the interview.
I doubt that very much.
No, I think that's probably true.
Oh, there's definitely people in their 80s who are going to get
And
interviewed.
then you can see my attire, and that's what people had to wear in the summer in Tucson because it was so hot.
Well, I look forward to seeing that. So those are all the questions I had, unless there's anything else notable you want to talk about.
I think that's good, Trace.
Okay.
All right, so it's Trace Pittman at Trace Pittman 2.
It's Pittman.Trace2. Or what you could do, which might be easier, is just text it to me, and then I'll email it to myself, if that's easier.
No, I'll email it because that's what I do.
Okay. Cool.
Pittman,
well, thank you.
No, wait. Pittman Trace 2.
That's it.
That's it?
Yep. At gmail.com.
Oh, well, that helps. Gmail.com. It will be coming really faster than you don't even want it. Okay, so if you follow the VIN number, I think you will, maybe they'll say you're just in luck. We just got 9,000 Takata airbags, and we'll put one in your car.
Oh, yeah, that would be nice. Unfortunately, they don't have an appointment until May, so it's going to be like 3 weeks before I can get it in. But
well, that's good. Oh, so you found the VIN number and everything?
yeah, I know how to get it.
Okay, they're gonna fix it. They have them now.
Which actually she didn't tell me that. She didn't tell me whether or not they could. She just said that she'll let the mechanic know or whatever.
Oh, okay. All right, Trace. Well,
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
This has been one of the weirdest days for my going. I knew this morning that if I didn't go out early, that the trees could, would start breaking. So that motivated me, but then I didn't get my bath. Oh, well. Yes, Tucson was so fun. You would have loved it.
Did you watch the basketball game last night?
I watched every single second of it.
Give me the synopsis.
Well, in the first half, Gonzaga was just fantastic. I mean, they were really good. The coach of North Carolina was just upset, really upset. But then in the second half, they're big. Those North Carolina players are big.
Yeah.
And they also know how to play basketball. So, you know what? I tell you about the thing with Sean Miller, what I saw? I think I did. The little girl, I think you missed the game. But in the game where the girls from Mississippi State beat UConn, there was a little player. The day before, she had scored 43 points, and I think against UConn she scored 41.
Wow.
And then when they played, who did they play for the final? One of the SEC schools. Anyway, so then they go to play South Carolina or something for the championship. And I didn't think she was playing badly. She was nothing like Alonzo Trier. Nothing. So he took her out. Get this. He took her out at the end of the first half, and he never put her back in.
What?
No.
Why?
I don't know, but you know what, Trace? That's what a coach does. I don't know, maybe the poor kid was just tired. She's little. She's a sophomore and she's like 5'1", 5'2". So she was just, I think she probably was just exhausted, and the coach knows their players. But my point is that he had enough guts. He's going to have her for 2 more years. And, to fix it so that whatever she was doing or, not maybe not sharing, that she'll never do that again.
Wow. That is something.
Yeah, so when you play for Sean Miller, it doesn't matter because he'll just take you back.
I told Devin that he needs to take out Trier. And it's one thing when the player is actually being selfish and scoring, but when the player is being selfish and missing every shot, that's just inexcusable.
Yeah, it was. Because you know what? And the thing is, I think this is what I think. And Sharon thinks so too, my old friend. I think that Kobe Simmons is going to leave. I don't know. He won't like sitting out for a year, so that would be the only thing. But he'll either try in the NBA, which he should not do, or transfer, because he's a really good player, and he never gets to play.
Well, if Trier stays, it's going to be the same, and maybe he should transfer.
That's because Sean doesn't, he just doesn't take kids out when he's had other horrible players before, and they've never got out. So I think that if Sean continues to coach, who was it? It was John. He called, and John said, I guess it was the North Carolina kid. He called last night, and he said, listen to who these players are. juniors, seniors, senior, junior. And you know what? We don't get them because they all leave. And nothing good ever happens to them when they leave, hardly ever.
Huh.
I mean, Steve Kerr stayed the whole time.
That's interesting that North Carolina didn't have many freshmen. That's surprising.
Yeah, well, I think if we look, we'll see, because that's what I believe, John. I mean, a lot of those kids were seniors. They were huge. You know, I mean, Cody Simmons, look at that art, you know, that, what is his name, Raleigh Archman or whatever.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, you know that player. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I got my admissions test today, and I am ready to send in the check that you wrote for my registration renewal.
Perfect.
So thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
And, yeah.
Okay, Frank. Well, I love you, and I will now take my shower.
I love you, too. Have a good rest of your day.